years to be able to give talks and lead day-longs and that sort of thing. And so I'm really happy to be here in person. Isn't it great? Everyone's gradually coming out again, which I'm very happy about. I haven't been here in person in quite a long time, so it's lovely. So my talk tonight is on dependent origination and how it can help us to live happier lives. So I'll just explain a little bit about what dependent origination is. And then there's a painting that I'm going to show you on the screens. It's a Tonka painting like these ones that you see around the walls. And I'll explain dependent origination through those pictures. I think that's a great way to understand it. So, Buddhism is a little bit different from many other religious philosophies because there's nothing about a first cause, how it all began, or even if it had a beginning. None of that is discussed in Buddhism. As a matter of fact, the Buddha emphasized, don't ask that. It's not a useful question. Instead, he said, let's understand things as they are right now, rather than looking in the deep past or the distant future. And he said, he talked about dependent origination is really an idea about how things are right now, a big idea. So how Genesis is the first book of the Bible for Christians and Jews. Well, dependent origination is like Genesis for Buddhists. It's got the basic idea of Buddhism in it. And that basic idea is that everything is connected. Everything is connected. And that's the teaching of dependent origination. And we'll see how that works. Everything affects everything else. Everything that is because other things are. What's happening now is part of what happened in the past. What will happen next is part of what is happening now. This is the teaching of dependent origination, that everything is connected. The Buddha said, he who sees dependent origination sees the path. He also said, the second quote, I teach suffering and the end of suffering. So it turns out that those two statements work together. Dependent origination is about suffering and how we can free ourselves from suffering. And that's what our path is about, freeing ourselves from suffering and being able to live happy lives. So dependent origination is actually kind of a psychology. It sums up a Buddhist psychology. In the West, we have, I think Freud was one of the great thinkers of modern times. And we have Western psychology, which gives us a path for working with our suffering and leading happier lives. To me, Western psychology was transformative. I wouldn't be here without therapists and therapy and working hard to see how I was causing my own suffering. And Eastern psychology, Buddhist psychology, focuses less on what's wrong with us and how we can fix it. And there's nothing wrong with focusing on that. And more on what is our greatest potential. So it's a great combination together to work with both the Buddhist psychology and the Western psychology. Because we have to do the work. We have to clean house. We all have parents who are human beings, make mistakes, mess us up, right? And so we all have stuff to work through. Life on earth, we're very imperfect, right? So, but I think it's interesting. One of the things I think I've been taught is that Buddhism spread around the world and was able to kind of merge with the religions and cultures that were in certain places. Like, for example, Buddhism started in India, but it spread to Japan, where the Shinto religion was the common religion at the time. And Buddhism was able to kind of merge with that and become Zen Buddhism, which works in Japan. In Tibet, Buddhism was able to merge with the Bon religion, which was prevalent at the time, and create Tibetan Buddhism. And I think in the West, when Buddhism came to the West, thanks to our teacher John Travis and Jack Kornfield and Joseph Goldstein and a handful of others, it merged with our prevalent religion, which I think really was psychology. That's what we saw as could be our end of suffering, at least one of the important things in our culture. So Buddhism works really well with Western psychology, I think. In the entire time that he was teaching, it's said that the Buddha only drew one diagram. He drew a circle in the sand, and then he lined the circle with grains of rice. And our image that I'm going to put on this screen in a minute is a circle. And that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the night. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little Zen story about a circle. It really doesn't have anything to do with my talk, but I love this story, so I'm going to tell you. One day, a small boy was playing near the river when he saw an old man with a long beard seated in the sand. The boy moved closer and watched as the old man drew a perfect circle in the sand. "Hey, old man, how did you draw such a perfect circle?" asked the boy. The old man looked at the boy and said, "I don't know. I just tried and tried and tried again. Here, you try." The old man handed the stick to the boy and walked away. The boy began drawing circles in the sand. At first, his circles came out too wide, or too long, or too crooked. But as time went by, the circles began to look better and better. He kept trying, and then one bright morning, he drew a perfect circle in the sand. And then he heard a small voice behind him. "Hey, old man, how did you draw that perfect circle?" Isn't that a great one? Okay, let me show you my picture, and we'll talk about dependent origination. Can you see that? Oh, yeah, great. So this is the Tonka painting of the Wheel of Life. And it is the, among other things, the entire psychology and story of dependent origination. Let me just give you a little overview before we get into the details. So this creature here, and Tonka paintings are a Tibetan tradition, and the old Bon Tibetan religion had a lot of kind of fierce deities, and you see them on some of these paintings here. And so this is one of them. This is Yama, the god of death. And Yama holds the wheel of life. And that's what that is. Dependent origination is all part of the wheel of life. And it's the wheel of a life. It's the wheel of rebirth. It's the wheel of, can we get off the wheel? Yama has skulls, a crown of skulls, and Yama has, well, someone told me that Yama is actually the Bodhisattva of compassion, Kuan Yin. Couldn't be more of an opposite. And you can tell that because of the soft pink underside of Yama's feet and hands, that they are a secret detail that shows you that Yama's really soft and kind. So I like that idea. I can zoom in on this a little bit, show you a few details. So up in the top here, you see the Buddha. And the Buddha is pointing, his arms out, his fingers pointing at the moon. See the moon here? You can see my cursor, can't you? And they say that teaching a spiritual practice is like, it's ineffable. We're trying to teach something that can't be expressed. So it's like a finger pointing at the moon. The Buddha's here and there's a path. This is the path to enlightenment here. So let's look a little more closely at the wheel. So I'm going to zoom into the center. In the center of the wheel are what are known as the three marks of existence, the three characteristics of existence. And those are, you've probably heard this trilogy before, greed, hatred, and delusion. There are three animals that symbolize that. The snake represents hatred due to the kind of unpleasant relationship human beings have with snakes. The rooster here at the top represents greed, because I understand the cock of the walk has a busy sex life. I think that's what that comes from. It's about lust. And then the pig, this darker creature on the bottom, is delusion. And the reason the pig represents delusion is because he's always got his nose and his eyes in the mud and he can't see anything clearly. The next level of this circle is kind of a yin and yang. You see a bright side with, happy people who are practicing kindness and awareness, and everything's kind of upward bound. And then over on the other side, you see people who are, more not practicing that and are kind of hounded by demons and going down. So simple. And then the next circle, the last circle that we're going to talk about until we really get into dependent origination, is called the 6 realms. There's kind of a horizon line, and the 3 realms below the horizon are realms of great suffering. The 3 realms above the horizon are not as bad. So I'll just walk you through these realms very briefly, okay? Over here on the left, I'm zooming in on the animal realm. So animals, not so great to be an animal. You don't have much intelligence or understanding of what's going on, and life is a lot about survival and getting enough to eat. Even worse, this bottom realm is the hell realm. And in this realm, we see pictures of people being hung upside down and tortured by demons, and it's not a good place either. And then over here on the right is the realm of the hungry ghosts. You may have heard of hungry ghosts. I think it's a Chinese idea that there are these creatures who have big bellies and they're very hungry, but they have tiny little throats, so they can't get anything to eat. I think there's a holiday in China where everyone puts food out for the hungry ghosts. So no matter which realm you're born into, there's always a Buddha in each realm, even in the hell realm. And what that means is that no matter what realm you're in, you can awaken. You can awaken even from the hell realm. On the upper right, now we're above the horizon, so things are better. This is the human realm. And this is the realm where we should be so grateful to have a human life, because this is the realm where it is easiest to get off the wheel and to awaken. So we see people studying and practicing and doing all the things that people do. Over here, this realm is called the realm of the Titans. And these are or in modern times, we call it the realm of the CEOs. These are powerful people who like to run everything and have quite a bit of self-esteem and ego. And then the top realm is the realm of the Devas. And this is a very happy, pleasant, wonderful realm to be in. The only problem is it's temporary. It's going to end, and you don't know what realm you're headed for next. One little interesting inter-realm thing that's happening is, see this little Titan down here with the axe? He's chopping down the beautiful tree that is such a nice thing for all the Devas. So you see that the Titans don't like anybody else to have a good time with themselves. So those are the 6 realms, and they're kind of fun to understand, I think. But now we're going to get into the part of this wheel that is dependent origination. On this, on this outer circle, there are 12 little segments, 1, 2, 3, etc. And we're going to go through them and kind of talk about, because there's in this cycle of 12 steps is the kernel of how we can work with our own suffering. Okay. And that's what we're going to get to. So let's start at the beginning. I'm going to zoom in on this first little area here. That's pretty good. So in this little segment, we see an infant just born, and behind him is a blind man. And the infant is leading the blind man. This is called ignorance, and it's the idea of the blind leading the blind. We're all born into ignorance, and I know we all probably have worked with our own spiritual ignorance and tried to become more educated and aware, but we start out in ignorance. We don't know anything. We have so much to learn. Now, if we move down to the next area, you see a potter. And he's making pots. So this is known as concoctions or volitional actions. Once we're born, once we're out here in the world, we make stuff, we do stuff, we act, we speak, we think. All of these actions are our pots, all of these deeds. So even though we're born ignorant, we just start throwing pots and live our lives. And as we do that, we mold our karma because our deeds have repercussions. Uh-oh, don't do that. Oh, good. Welcome back. Okay, let's keep going. The third segment is consciousness. And this is the monkey mind. We all have heard about the monkey mind, and we've all experienced the monkey mind when we're meditating as he swings from branch to branch of the tree. So that's the state, that's how our minds work. The mind's a bubble machine. It's always putting out the next thing. And I have a theory, which has nothing to do with dependent origination, but I think it's an interesting theory, that the reason the internet is such a success is because it is a super monkey mind. You can look up, I think I'll study the Buddha a little. Oh, was Confucius alive at the same time? I think he was. And Lao Tse, and they paved the way for Jesus. My goodness, and Christianity, isn't that interesting? So it's the monkey mind. That's what the internet is. You're all over the place in 3 seconds. No wonder we love it. Okay, so we have ignorance, we have concoctions, and we have consciousness. Now, this fourth area is called mind and body. In Pali, it's nama rupa. Nama is the mind, rupa is the body. And by extension, rupa, the body, is the whole physical universe. And then we have that representation of the physical universe in our minds. So it's like a parallel universe in our head. So it's two people in a boat. Mind is in the back, and mind has, if I zoom in a little bit, you'll be able to see, mind's got the oars. See that? Mind is in charge. And the body's just a passenger. So the mind is running the show, but they're inseparable, floating on the sea of life together. But mind and body are two. You may have heard mind and body are one, but this says mind and body are two. Mind is in charge. The next area, we're starting to get now down at the bottom here into the very crucial part of this wheel, which will give us ideas about how to work with our own suffering. So this picture here is the six senses. You see a house. You see a house, and it has 5 windows, and down here a door. So the 5 windows are our 5 physical senses, and the door, the 6th sense, is our mind itself, which is a way of perceiving things also, just like the senses are. So the mind plays this enormous role in how we perceive the outer world, because input from the physical senses is combined with what the mind already has stored, and we don't necessarily get a picture of what's going on outside. More about that in a minute. But keep going on. Here we have a man and a woman embracing. This is called contact. And the idea of contact is that we have these sense doors, we have our mind, and everything that comes in is a contact. You go see the Taj Mahal, you have a contact. You read a book, you have a contact. You talk to another person, there's a contact. You look at a postage stamp, contact. Without our 6 senses and the mind, without our 6 senses, we'd be prisoners all alone. But because we have contact, something comes in and makes contact with us. And once that happens, we have feelings about it. Have you ever heard the neurologist Rick Maddock give a Dharma talk? If you get a chance, he's wonderful. And I heard a talk where he was talking about this, the feelings that we have. Things are either pleasant or unpleasant. So whenever we have a contact over here, immediately we also have the sensation, the feeling of whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. And Rick, the neurologist, showed the diagrams when I heard him talk, that the feeling doesn't come after, it comes with. That whenever we have a contact, the feeling comes at the same time. This is pleasant or this is unpleasant. And this is the crucial moment, because if something is pleasant, we would like more of it. And if something is unpleasant, we would like it to get away from us. And that's where we have trouble being with things as they are. We don't like how things are, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. We would like it to be different. We'd like more or we'd like less. You see how this is the crucial moment where we have a kind of a disagreement with things as they are? And that this is the root moment of our suffering. The whole point of my talk tonight is if we can wake up when we have a contact with anything and notice whether we find it pleasant or unpleasant and work with that, and try to not go into the I want more or get this out of here. If we can watch it happening and talk ourselves through it, I don't really have to have more of this. I'll be all right without it. Or I can live with this, even though I'm not crazy about it. But, to self-talk ourselves through that pleasant or unpleasant moment. So this is like if this whole drawing were a video game, there's always that place that you get where you can go up to the next level. This is it. This is a Tibetan video game from 2,600 years ago or something. So, unfortunately, and the picture is the man with an arrow in his eye. It's a very difficult picture to look at. I know. I'm sorry I've left it up there so long. Yeah, that's unpleasant, the arrow in your eye. But yes, that's exactly right. It's feelings, actually, Vedana, pleasant or unpleasant. So this is the moment where we can catch ourselves. But alas, we often don't. Whoop, I didn't want to do that. Instead of catching ourselves, this is a picture in many Thangka paintings of a woman handing a man an opium pipe. In this one, I think it's just a drink, but it's the same idea. Because this is craving. This is, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. Or I gotta get it out of here. Moving into a deeper kind of lost state of reacting to that pleasant or unpleasant. Tanha is the word for craving in Pali, and it means thirst. Tanha. And then if we don't, we're lost now. So let's see what happens in the world of the lost, where we've been many a time. This is a man who is hoarding these plums. He can't get enough of them. This is clinging. Craving progresses to clinging, and hoarding's a good example of clinging. In a trance, under a sensual entanglement. It all feels so good. Let's keep as many plums around as we possibly can. But suffering underlies this clinging because these plums are all going to rot. You can't keep them. I don't know if you've heard of dependent origination. You may have heard it called, or you may have heard it referred to when people are teaching the Four Noble Truths, the kind of principles of Buddhism. And they say the Four Noble Truths are dependent origination light. And the reason they say that is because the Four Noble Truths are life is suffering. The cause of our suffering is clinging. So that's right where we are. What can we do about that? It is possible to do something about it. Cessation is possible. Third Noble Truth, Fourth Noble Truth, follow the Eightfold Path. So that's why they say that, because, it's kind of a cause and effect thing in both the dependent origination and the Four Noble Truths. Okay, just going through to the end now. There's just a few more steps. We have a couple. This is called becoming, but it's a couple in bed having sex. And but becoming kind of means, I want to become a lawyer. I want to become president. I want to become this. I want to become that. I want to become a better person. I want to grow more, do more. But it's all about the self. It's all about the independent self, which is an illusion. And so this moves on, this symbol moves on to the symbol of a woman giving birth. So this idea of becoming gives birth. And then the final picture is death, old age and death. this man represents old age. He's got on a backpack, a knapsack, and everything that he's owned in his whole life, everything is in that knapsack. He's ready to go. He's ready to leave the body and leave it all behind. And then in this picture, that's what he's done. He's gone. And then we're back to the next life because we didn't make it. We didn't wake up down there in the Vedana with the pleasant and the unpleasant. So we got to do it all over again. So that's the wheel of dependent origination. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Isn't it cool? So I like to open this up for discussion. We have about at least 15 minutes for discussion. Any comments, questions, anything? I can take this down. Well, we'll see where your comments go.
So,
Might be nice just to see each other for a minute. I can put it right back.
please state your name.
Hi, my name is Jen. Mary Helen, thank you. This is really interesting. And I think I'd just love to ask for a little bit more information about the kind of connecting the dots there on the, border of the wheel. The selfing part is another way of talking about the kind of trap of becoming / selfing. Would you say that that's because we just get overly attached to the feelings?
Well, I think one of the things that we cling to is this idea of ourselves. And we cling to that more than anything else. That's our primary identification, don't you think? So then we
And
cling to
and
that.
just get all wrapped up in our experiences of the moments,
Right. And
attached
ourselves.
to the outcome, what we
Right.
want, what we don't want.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You got it.
this is tremendous. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Is there anyone from our virtual audience that has a question? You can raise your hand, unmute yourself.
Just start talking is fine.
All right. We have some questions in person, so hold on.
Good.
Hi, my name is Corinne, and thank you so much. I think I heard an explanation of this maybe 20 years ago, but I've completely forgotten. And I'm curious, this is in Tibetan Buddhism, but is there anything similar laying it out in other areas of Buddhism like Soto Zen or Theravadan or
I think the Four Noble Truths are the closest analogy to this because it's the same message. And generally, the teachings of Buddhism follow these ideas anyway. I mean, the
Right.
idea of Vedana, pleasant and unpleasant, is definitely big in Theravada Buddhism. So the pieces are there, not quite this beautiful diagram,
Right.
not quite that.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
the
Very
Tibetans are
interesting.
good at those diagrams.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Thank you
do
so
sand
much.
paintings and everything. And you should definitely study this every 20 years, whether you remember it or not.
Here we go.
Yeah, I have a question. You started this by saying that difference between psychology, other things, and Buddhism is that psychology starts with trying to cure yourself, take your faults or your the nicks out of the idol, and you said Buddhism starts with the person, doesn't necessarily involve itself with curing yourself, but in what the possibilities are. Would you explain further on that?
Repeat the question.
Definitely, I can repeat the question. What's your name? Larry asked. He kind of quoted back when I was first starting my talk, and I said that Western psychology is concerned with kind of figuring out where we're weak and where we have faults and where we're, deluded or ignorant, and trying to enlighten ourselves in those areas and kind of make ourselves happier by fixing the things that are wrong. Whereas Buddhist psychology, I think my words were, concerns itself with our greatest potential, which is about what you said. And well, I think our greatest potential is for for enlightenment. Now, there's things the Buddha said, don't believe anything you haven't experienced. And sorry to tell you, I haven't experienced enlightenment, so I can't talk about it too much. Also, I haven't experienced rebirth, but I just talked about it for a half hour. So, so I think that's the main. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's not finding your talent and and trying to develop that. It's not that, right?
I love that. I mean, I think that is in there. I mean, because I think our talents and the areas where we go in the zone, the areas where we are most creative, are the pathway for a large part of the pathway for enlightenment. That's just been my experience anyway. Yeah, great point. Thank you.
Do we have anyone in the virtual audience that would like to ask a question? Anything that percolated to the top? No? Meryl, did you have a question?
I think what you said, I don't know what the perfect spot was, but and nice to meet you in person. I'm Merle.
Oh,
I
I've seen you
enjoy your
so many times.
I
on Zoom.
enjoy your talks. So I think what you said, where we're in a good spot down there at the bottom there, I think that what you said was that there's aversion and craving. We're in this place where we shouldn't be having aversion or craving. I mean, that would be best for us. And I'm thinking that, I guess I'm like having, I don't know. I think I'm full of crap when I say that I'm the only one having this experience, because I'm not. But I'm having, like, right now I'm caregiving for somebody. She just got displaced. I mean, she's homeless. She's almost 70. So I'm having a few years of just non-stop trauma. I just don't know how it keeps opening door, and I keep arriving. She's actually in my truck right now because I was like, I've got to do my sit. Anyways, so this aversion thing, right? Like, it's just like, Buddha probably was like, all these things are happening, or, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about the famine and the Vietnam War, and like, and then he makes 20 monasteries, and you know what I mean? Like, so that it's just to stay concentrated and try not to be distracted with pleasure or pain. And so I guess my question is that awakening? If you're not distracted by pleasure or pain and you're concentrated, is that?
I like that. That makes sense to me. I don't need this picture really. Give me a second here. Lost my mic. How's that? I think you guys can hear me. Yes, I think you've put your finger on it. Yes, to be aware of the pleasant, to be aware of the pain, but not to go into the craving. Because it's going to be pleasant or painful. That comes with it. Like the neurologists say, you have an experience, you have a contact with anything, it's pleasant or painful. There's some neutral, but not a lot. I mean, I dislike some of the most neutral things. So yes, it sounds like you're leading a life of great service. It does.
Yeah, well,
And so you,
seems to
you
be, I
left
keep
that out.
leading that way.
You left that part out when you were, talking about,
Yeah, I can't seem to, I'm not gonna just drop this woman off in
No.
distress.
Right.
And we made a friendship when she was housed, and
Uh,
I became close to her, and now she got displaced, long story, and I'm not gonna go into
mhm.
that. So back to Buddha, it makes me think of then I get a little confused. So then would Buddha be put in the hell realms and still concentrated and not distracted? And would be Buddha put in the heavenly realms and still concentrated, not distracted? Or the idea of this Buddha, or would Buddha actually search out an environment that was healthy for him and not, I guess you get,
I hear what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah, you're in a situation that you need to be in right now. It sounds like you can't walk out on this. You just said that. You're here. And we don't know what's going to happen. We could have any kind of natural disaster any minute and suddenly be in a situation that's very painful. And so, yes, the answer to your question is yes, the practice is for those times and for the easy times and the hard times to be present. And just like the realm of the devas, when everything is hunky-dory, we tend to go to sleep even more. So there's challenges on both ends, right? Okay.
Any questions from the virtual audience that came up? All right, we have another question from Larry.
Okay. I consider myself a seeker of truth. And also I'm an iconoclast, a destroyer of conventional beliefs. So how does that fit in with Buddhism, or does it fit in with Buddhism?
Well, I remember John Travis saying one time, he was talking about being a rebel. And he said, if you're here tonight, you're a rebel. So that fits in with Buddhism. I mean, in our culture, it's, we live in this Judeo-Christian culture, and Buddhism is kind of outside that, isn't it? It is somewhat iconoclastic. Just to be a Buddhist.
What about truth? You haven't mentioned truth. Is the search for truth a part of Buddhism? Is Buddhism interested in the search for truth?
I think that the way the Buddhists say that is that we're trying to be with things as they are. That's about truth. What is happening now? And so not so much the truth of how the universe was created, or if there's a God, or, things that we can't know, but just the truth of how things are, being with things as they are in our own mind, in our own heart, in our relationships with people on the planet, being with things as they are. I think that's truth. And yes, Buddhism's very more interested in that than anything, because that's where our lives are. Yeah. So you said you're an iconoclast and did you say a seeker of truth? That's what you said. We covered both ends of that. And those really go together, don't they? Because there's a lot out there that's accepted and not true. A lot. Yeah. I mean, the human race has come through, I guess, so many of those ways of looking at things that don't work anymore, that we can see the holes in it. We can see the falsity of it now. But just kind of trying to be more understanding about the human race. I mean, we got here via those vehicles that don't quite work anymore. Maybe trying to just understand it a little. You have a comment?
Okay, there was a video in 1996 was a video in 1996. And the basis, it was a talk given at Princeton, or no, given at Brown University. And the basis of the talk was 3 predictions by Friedrich Nietzsche in 1888. The first prediction, 1888, was that in the next century, there will be wars such as never been waged on Earth before. His second prediction was that in the following century, people would loathe themselves. They would loathe each other and loathe themselves. And he said the reason for that is because you have killed God, but you have not killed guilt. And guilt had instilled people in very early in life. So that's the reason people will loathe each other. Everything will seem like a strategy of power or greed. And he said that'll be the easy century. The next century will be even worse, because in the next century, science will devour its own underpinnings. That's what's happening now.
What do you mean by science will devour its own underpinnings? Can you explain that a little more?
Sure. Darwin's theory of evolution is under great question. Einstein's theory of relativity is on great question. In medicine, many people don't believe in viruses, don't believe in bacteria, don't believe there's a new theories coming in medicine. In a ton of areas, what has been brought down to us and taught to us in school turns out to be completely false and is being slowly replaced. Although, of course, the powers that be don't want that, because people are conservative. Professors are conservative. They don't want to think out of the box. They got where they are thinking the way they do, and they're not interested in students who want to go elsewhere. So that's what's happening.
I have to think about that third one. Nietzsche was quite the optimist, wasn't he? What was?
The talk was by Thomas
Oh, the
Wolfe.
talk was by Thomas Wolfe. The Look Homeward Angel, Thomas Wolfe, not the other. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Mary and Helen, this is
Leadership.
Robin,
Yeah,
and
it's time.
I'd like to offer a comment to that, and then also to Meryl's questions and comments about, would the Buddha look for a more pleasant place or find enlightenment in pleasure and pain? And the way that I look at it is, or the way that I understand it, is that to the Buddha, there is no heaven or hell. It just is what it is. Like, they experience pleasantries and enjoy them, but don't wish that they would be longer or be sad when they end. They experience pain, but they don't wish it's not what it is. It just is. It's pain. It's life. And then our human minds, we want to think that this time that we're experiencing right now is the most important time. But in Hinduism, they have these stories, these legends of other planes of existence that are on Earth where they have experienced. The Mahabharata is the Great World War, where there were bombs and stuff. So we don't really know what was before. All I think what I like to take away from existence or this experience of human life is that whatever is has been before and will go. So what we experience now, humans have probably experienced in a different form 30,000 years ago. And it just comes and it goes and it comes and it goes. But how do you want to experience it? What is your truth? Because it's all impermanent. So, and that's what I feel like what you're trying to say is that the circle is these experiences, but we don't necessarily have to experience them that way, because we can just observe and just be in the experience and not wish it was something different.
Thank you, Robin. That's very
Thank you.
nice bookend with where I started about everything being connected. And we do have to end soon, but please let Pat say a few words.
My name, excuse me, my name is Pat. It's more a comment. I just want to thank you for using art to describe these concepts. It really, it really helps me to understand and to visualize and to visualize and to understand and to work through the whole Tonka.
Great.
And I guess maybe also a question, isn't that an ancient tradition to teach through, isn't that one of these the purposes of these Tonkas or the Japanese version? To
Teaching.
teach
Yes.
through the pictures.
Teaching Tonkas, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a number of ones that are really powerful for
Yeah.
teaching. This is my favorite.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Pat, you're so welcome. You're also, thank you all very much. We do need to close. I've enjoyed myself so much, and I'm going to do a very quick metta and dedication of the merit so that I can turn things over to Jen, who is our volunteer coordinator, and she's going to make some announcements, and then we will close. So let me do a quick metta. So we'll come back into a meditative posture and bring our attention this time to the area of the heart. And just, I always like to put my hand there. That helps me to bring my attention there and just feel in that area, because it's right in that area, our amazing human capacity that we have for kindness, for caring, for feeling for another person and for ourselves. Just that the wonderful feelings of love that are centered there and that we can cultivate. You know, we're not stuck with whatever heart we're born with or grow up with. We can grow our hearts by practicing metta. So breathe into the heart. And let's take these beautiful feelings and let them spread through the body, down the arms, into the fingers, down the legs, into the toes, up into the head, and just fill the whole body with a beautiful golden light of kindness. Let's send this kindness to ourselves. Let's wish the very best for ourselves. Whether things are pleasant or painful, may we be with them. May we not suffer. Even if it's painful, may we be able to be present to it and be with it. If it's pleasant, may we enjoy. Let's send these beautiful feelings that we're capable of, that make us human, let's send them to one person who we love. Let's send them to all of our friends and family. May they all be happy. Let's send them to everyone in this room and in this Zoom room. Let's all just send our good feelings to one another. And let's let this grow. Send this out to everybody on your street, on this street, on your street, everybody in your town, everybody for 100 miles in every direction, and just let it grow and grow and grow across the continent, across the world, across the oceans, and let this beautiful feeling in your heart wrap around the planet and hold every single person on this planet and beyond this planet. Whatever beings there may be, we hold them all in our hearts, and we wish, may all beings everywhere be happy, may they be healthy, may they be peaceful, may they be free from suffering, and may they awaken and be free. Thank you all so much.